Welcome to Unleashing Happiness, the podcast where I teach you how to change your mindset, change your habits, and actually change your life. Happiest of happy Wednesdays. Welcome back to Unleashing Happiness. This is Cecilia Hendrix, your host. If you listened to my episode on Monday, or if you happen to catch the YouTube video that I published yesterday, I had shared that this week we are going to be talking about emotional intelligence, emotional resilience, building up kind of our ability to handle things that come our way by using gratitude and really self-love, our self-concept, being kind to ourselves. And then I'll give some kind of information around ways that you can calm yourself in the moment, in ways that you should take a look at the emotions that you're feeling and not identify them as negative or be upset with yourself for having an emotion. Another topic I'm going to talk about a bit more today that I definitely talked about quite a bit in the episode on Monday, which was a bonus episode, is your environment. And today I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction and talk essentially about the vibe that you have around you. So that includes your, home, your bedroom, the friends that you keep, the things that you're going out and doing. And it's really kind of focused on literally this vibe that you're creating for your life. I'd really like to start today with kind of a recap of what it means to be in a state and to have an identity. This will kind of lead into the emotional intelligence and the things that trigger you. So essentially, your state is the same as the way you identify. So that can either be as someone who is poor or someone who is wealthy, someone who doesn't really care about money, someone who really likes material items, can be someone who is very grounded in a specific religion, can be someone who is a parent or someone who has decided that they do not want children in life. It can be someone who is very family focused or someone who has decided to split with their family for their own personal reasons. It can be a multitude of different things. Beautiful, you find yourself unattractive, if you love yourself, if you don't love yourself. States and identity is kind of all encompassing. Can also be if you see yourself as an honest person and that's something that you really hold as a high value, or if you see yourself as holding like very high integrity type values. And that's something that not only you put out into the world, but that you also expect to come back to you in the way that you're treated and the way that others are interacting with you, I guess is the best way to put it. Your identity, which it can also be called your state if you're like a follower of Neville Goddard, or even if you listen to Tony Robbins, I've noticed that he uses the word state quite a bit, but your state is where you're dwelling. It's what is important to you, what you hold true, and it's also going to really highlight some of the triggers that you'll have in life. So if you are someone who is very family focused, a threat to your family is going to be really high on your trigger list. We, even as humans, have different levels of what we consider honest or dishonest, like within a relationship. So if we're somebody who holds honesty as kind of this really core identity of ours, and we're very, very honest, no matter the situation, there could be others that one either see us as too bluntly honest, like it comes out a little too much and maybe is harsh, or it could be that even the smallest of kind of white lies or indiscretions from a partner or a friend can be seen as, a great insult to you because it's insulting your identity. It's offending your identity. It's attacking your identity, really, when somebody treats you that way. And so these triggers are really good to know because it helps you identify areas that you're likely going to have an elevated emotion. And that elevated emotion could cause you, if you don't have the tools to manage that, it could cause you to lash out or behave in a way that you don't want to. So either you are attempting to manage your emotions better, or you are actually trying to grow in an area that your reactions to something would be different. Now, when you have a desired outcome that you're working towards, and let's say you have focused on like a mental diet, or you're attempting to work on kind of your own mindset and the way that you're focused on this, What happens is that if you don't have the emotional intelligence and you're not able to emotionally regulate yourself, then your reactions and how long it takes you to bring yourself back to a baseline could actually kind of create a cycle for you. It's when you either spiral into a feeling that you don't want to have, you start beating yourself up, or you decide that, nothing is working. You're just kind of caught in this cycle. And it's because, everything in life mirrors back to you. So when you continue to focus on how things aren't going right, how frustrated you are, how the world does you wrong, you're always getting confirmation of that being correct. Your mind is always going to filter out everything else and let you focus on the areas that show you your life is not going well. The issue is, or maybe actually the fact I should say, is that the world has so much going on at one point. There's so many sounds, there's so many sights, there's so many smells, there's so many things that we could focus on that our brains are designed to efficiently focus on what matters. And sometimes that what matters is not what you consciously are hoping to focus on, but it's because it's tied to your belief. So as you are attempting to change beliefs, and maybe you want to move into a new state and start to see your life in a different way, open up your perceptions, have a new state that you're dwelling in, a new identity for yourself, one of the key things to get started on that is to how to emotionally regulate yourself, how to get in touch with the way that you're feeling, and how to not start beating yourself up if you do feel a certain way. Emotions happen. Feelings happen. There's nothing inherently wrong with a feeling. It's what you do with that feeling. It's the meaning that you assign to it. It's the action that you take based off of it. And it's how long you dwell in it. So taking your emotions and feelings and assigning them as negative or bad or something that you can't feel because you want something more positive in your life is not the direction to go. Instead, just become curious about it. If you have a reaction that you don't like, or you have a feeling that continues to bubble up in you that you don't like, it's a really perfect time for you to identify why. And to lean into understanding what state you're dwelling in and what beliefs you have to have that feeling come up. So a great example is, let's say that your aunt was supposed to call you and she didn't. There's two stories that you can kind of tell yourself. Well, there's multiple stories, but I'm going to use two for this example. One is that she hates you and she never keeps her promises to you. And so she just didn't want to talk to you and she's blowing you off because she forgot, because she doesn't care. And the other is, maybe she actually had some sort of a delay, or her mom called her and she didn't want to get off the phone with her, or, her stomach's upset, or whatever kind of thing it is, right? But there's two stories. One is very critical and frustrated and upset with that person and kind of putting yourself down in that too. They must not like me. They don't care. They're not contacting me. And the other is very empathetic. But not empathetic in a point that you're putting yourself down. It's not empathetic in a point that you're giving out more than you actually have to give and that you are depleting yourself. It's just a story that you're telling yourself based on this condition that has happened. And the more resilient you become, the more that you work on really going back to filling up your own cup and taking care of yourself, the more you will naturally find that those stories start to change. So if you see on a friend's story that they went out to dinner with another friend and you didn't get invited, the more resilient you have made yourself, the less likely that is to probably affect you. And you can add to that a story that it just ended up they ran into each other, or it was nothing against you, but sometimes they just want to go out by themselves. But you won't have this automatic, offended, upset, nothing works for me, nobody likes me, I'm left out all the time. Because as you work on your concept of yourself, as you're giving yourself more, you're filling your cup more, those type of things just don't affect you in the same type of way. This is what I've completely found in my own life, is that I used to be very reactive, and conditions that were external to me greatly affected my mood and the way that I perceived the world, the way that I perceived relationships, the way that I truly perceived myself, even though I did not recognize that at the time. I was so reactive that it made it difficult for me to take a step back and understand that there might be a different story in this. And if you're a follower of Neville Goddard, it's your story that's going to end up mattering in the end. So make it a good one. When we go back and consider the stories that we can tell ourselves, we need to remember that life is our perceptions. Our mind is filtering out all of this stuff, right? There's so much that's going on that if we paid attention to it all, we would be completely overwhelmed and we wouldn't be able to get anything done throughout the day. Like, it would be completely overwhelming, could not handle all of the sensory kind of things that were coming at us in one moment. So our brain is designed to filter. It's designed to focus on the things that matter to us. And the things that matter to us are based off of our beliefs and our perception. So it's like when I've talked before on the podcast and on my YouTube channel about the lucky versus unlucky. And they did a study that showed that people who self-identified as lucky were able to see more luck opportunities in their lives than those who self-identified as unlucky. And really what this comes down to is not mindlessly affirming to yourself that you are lucky. Although I believe that affirming will eventually work. I do think it takes a little bit longer, but I definitely think repeating stuff to yourself has importance. And I'll get into that a little bit more later in this episode. But when you truly feel that you are a lucky person, you start to see more of the opportunities. And it's literally because your brain starts to focus on those. We're a lucky person. I need to confirm this to Cecilia as we're walking throughout the day. So I'm going to start to highlight the ways that we're lucky. I'm going to filter out the things that are maybe not the greatest opportunity. I have the resilience then to deal with things that do not go maybe 100% my way, or it's a reaction that I don't like. I'm able to move on much quicker from it because I've built these tools to help myself throughout those situations. I'm always talking about gifts you can give yourself, and this is truly a gift you can give yourself. The more that you practice how to calm yourself, how to be curious with yourself, and set up a plan for when things don't go your way, the better off you'll be when those things come up. The more that you fill your cup by doing daily joys and focusing on gratitude, the more resilient you are and the less that things affect you. And that's what it means to do the inner work. That's what it means to focus on you more than anything else. It doesn't mean that nobody external matters. It doesn't mean that you don't have love and care and that you want to give to those that are around you and that are meaningful to you and important to you. But it does mean that you can give better because you've taken care of yourself first. You are able to be a better partner, a better friend, a better coworker, a better spouse, a better anything, parent, when you have focused on you. And you are in a position that you feel gratitude, that you're happy with your life, that you feel completely fulfilled, and that you have tools to deal when things don't go your way. Now, that said, if you have worked on these tools and you still feel that things are very overwhelming, you're not able to deal, you are struggling with even getting yourself out of bed in the morning, or you just don't feel like life is really worth it, if you feel like you want to harm yourself or others, definitely please reach out to a licensed therapist in your area. This information is not to replace the assistance from a licensed therapist or a professional in your area. If you are definitely struggling to that extent, and definitely if you feel like you're going to be a harm to yourself or others, reach out. I think there are resources that are available. If you're struggling to find those, shoot me an email at unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendrix.com, and I will do my absolute best to find some sort of resource for you to be able to use. I just want to make sure that everybody lives the most fulfilled and most joy-filled life that they're able to. And I think it's available to all of us. And I am definitely a believer and a follower of Neville Goddard, but my feelings are a little bit different than what I see sometimes in this community. I think a lot of times in the community, it can go a bit to the toxic side of recommending that you don't go to doctors, that you really just focus on being healthy. And I remember a story that my dad has always told me that has really stuck with me, even through, my law of assumption learnings. And that was that there was this great flood and this family had to retreat to their roof. And while they're sitting on the roof, they're watching the waters rise and they start to pray to God, please, God, save us from this flood. Help us get out of this flood. Save my life. And this boat comes up and it's full of people and they're like, come with us. We can take you to safety. They say, no. I've got my faith in the Lord. I will wait for the Lord. So the boat leaves and then they're watching the waters rise again. And they yell out to God, God, save us from this flood. The waters are rising. God, save our lives. And a helicopter comes with rescue. And they say, come on, we'll throw down the ladder. You can get out of here. And the family says, no, we're waiting for God. God's going to save us from this. So the helicopter leaves. Floodwaters take over. Family dies. They get to the pearly gates. They run into God. And they're like, what the heck, man? I was praying to you. I was asking for help. Why didn't you help us? God says, what else did you want me to do? I sent a boat and a helicopter and you refused both. And that to me is the same for law of assumption, law of attraction, prayer, anything like that. God will send you the answers that you're looking for, but you have to be open to not only hearing them, seeing them, but also accepting them. Don't look the answer to your prayers in the mouth and turn away from it. If there's a boat or there's a helicopter that comes for you, take that as your win. Take that as the answer to your prayers. And that means that if you are seeking help and you are struggling with a depression or just not feeling joy in life, and you've been calling out for help, and that help comes in the form of a licensed therapist, or suddenly you start seeing signs to contact a certain specific group in your area that is like a group therapy, jump on that. Go and try that. Don't turn it away because you're trying to do self-healing. I feel the same way about skincare, right? It's through everything. If you want clear skin and you're like, oh, I really want my skin to be glowing and beautiful, and that's what you focus on, and then you start to get things that present themselves in your life for skincare or working with a dermatologist or whatever else that it is, don't turn that away as, no, I'm just going to do it only with my mind. We're human. There are things that are going to present themselves to us that are here within our world that it's okay to accept. That is the answer to your prayers. And that goes for assistance in the way that our minds are working too. So let's say that you have been seeking a way to stay focused on your end goal or your desired outcome, and then you stumble across this podcast, or you stumble across someone's YouTube channel that could be helpful to you. Use those things for yourself, but make sure that you're not falling into a cycle of just gathering information nonstop. Part of that is taking the next step, which is the action steps. There has to be action after the belief. So you don't just sit in a closet and wait for $1 million to fall in your lap. There are action steps that are natural progressions based on your state and your identity. Your habits and the things that you are compelled to do are a direct reflection of the state that you're currently in. And learning some ways to regulate your emotions when you get triggered will definitely help you shift your state from being very reactive to being more thoughtful. So a few ways that you can do that is, one, whenever you end up triggered, the greatest thing that you can give yourself is a pause. If you can start to learn how to catch yourself in that triggered moment, even if it's a little bit after the moment happens, you're upset, whatever, if you can catch yourself soon after and do some sort of exercise that you have found allows you to kind of break up your mind, create a new thought process so you don't start to spiral, or that if you're angry, it doesn't get worse. If you're sad, it doesn't get worse, that you can bring yourself back to a baseline so that you can look at whatever the situation is from a fresh lens and from a calm lens. So you really want to work on bringing yourself kind of to a neutral type of feeling. We don't want to identify our feelings as negative and beat ourselves up for feeling them, right? Like what I said earlier, feelings happen. It's part of being human. And each of these feelings is an insight into the state that we're currently in. So when we become curious about why we feel that way, what part of our identity is being threatened in this point that we feel defensive, or we feel an emotion or a feeling that we would like to not continue. Because you can have a thought and a feeling that you are not identifying as negative, you are not beating yourself up about it, but you can still make the choice of, okay, this is here, but I don't want to dwell here. I don't want to continue feeling this way. I don't want to spend my entire weekend upset and down in the dumps because of this one event. But you also don't want to not allow yourself to feel, especially if an experience was very triggering or highly traumatic. So if it was something like that you went through a very traumatic experience, I would also recommend that you work with a licensed therapist in your area so that you can process those feelings and not hold on to them. That often manifests into, illness in your life, back pain, physical ailments, because the body definitely will store that emotion. So it's not about suppressing or not feeling or not processing. It's really about learning how to manage, how to become curious, and how to create steps so that you can bring yourself back to a baseline and refocus on the desired outcome that you want, the desired identity that you would like to have. That's the important pieces to get to. So like I said, one of the important things to give yourself is pause. And I always recommend that you practice this stuff with minor inconveniences to get started so that when something bigger happens, it's more of like an automatic habit loop that you go into. So remember, a habit loop starts with a cue. It can be a person, place, time, smell, and then that triggers a routine. So what we're really learning in this process with any kind of emotional regulation or emotional intelligence is how to have a cue, which is an emotional cue. Something happens that triggers a routine in you. And maybe your routine usually was to fly off the handle, scream and yell, and throw your phone. Okay, so we don't want to continue in that type of behavior. So we're going to start to teach ourselves that instead, when this cue happens, we're going to start a breathing exercise. There's multiple different breathing exercises that you can do. And there's even apps that you can find on your phone that'll walk you through the breathing. There's a few different ones that I like to do. My favorite is to take a really big, deep breath in, hold it at the top, do another short little breath. Every time I talk about this, I end up doing it. And then release slowly through your mouth. So big breath in, hold, another short breath. You feel like your lungs just could not have any more air in it. And then slowly release through your mouth. Another one is to breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 8. Any of these kind of breathing exercises will slow your heart rate, and it also gives you something to think about. You're counting, you're focused on the breathing, which means your brain can chill out for a little bit. You can start to train yourself to have that type of a reaction to a cue instead of whatever previous routine reaction you were having before. And a routine is always, or like a habit loop is always confirmed by a reward. Well, the reward that you're getting here is that you feel better, you're more calm, you're able to focus on your desired outcome, you're becoming less reactive, and then you don't feel like kind of sick. I don't know how many others feel this way, but a lot of times if I have a super triggering event, then it kind of creates this like sick feeling afterwards. I don't know if it's like the rush of adrenaline or what it is, but I don't feel well after. But really, the breathing is creating pause for you. You're stopping and pausing. So you can also create pause by doing a physical activity, whether that is shaking, so that kind of regulates you as well. You can just shake it all out. Whether that is going and screaming into a pillow because you need to get some sort of release. If you would also like to do some sort of physical activity, go for a walk, do some jumping jacks. I tend to recommend that you do the breathing exercise first, which immediately calms you down. Then go into the second step of a physical type of activity. So removing yourself from the situation that you're in, that current environment, and actually physically moving your body into something else. If you're in the car, you're definitely a little bit more limited, but if you're not, go for a quick walk, do some jumping jacks, push-ups, whatever it is, shaking, but get your body physically moving. The next is to name that emotion. Actually give it a name. Stop and think, what am I feeling right now? Is it rage? Is it jealousy? There's emotional wheels online that kind of give you a broader emotion that you can feel. So maybe instead of just having anger, it will also have like rage, disgust, jealousy. So you can really start to dig into what you're actually feeling. And then you're able to take a moment and ask yourself why. Why do I feel this way? Why did this trigger me? And like on a level for you, right? Not the external thing. So let's say that you found that your partner betrayed a boundary that you have in your relationship. And your initial reaction is you're really mad and you want to identify that anger as they did this. They did this betrayal. This is on them. But instead, trying to bring it back to your identity. Why did this upset you? So an example would be that instead of saying my partner did XYZ and I'm angry and disgusted because of it, you instead would say my trust was damaged in this way. So you're bringing it actually back to yourself. You're focusing on why this is upsetting you. If somebody cuts you off in traffic really bad and you almost wreck and you're working through why you're so upset, I mean, other than like the normal, like, oh my gosh, I almost got into a car accident kind of feelings, but you can say, I am so scared right now. And I'm not scared because they almost hit me. I'm scared because I almost got into a car accident and I had my children in the car. Or I've been in a bad car accident before, and that was really triggering and brought those memories and those emotions and those feelings back up for me. This takes a lot of work, at least for me. When I stopped pointing the finger at external things and instead focused on why I feel that way, it actually took me a while, and I worked on writing it in my journal. What is it that I feel, even if I had to do it later in the day, and why? Bring it back to yourself. Really get curious about why you feel that way. What is being threatened in your identity and the ways that you can handle that with like breathing exercises, naming the emotion, and doing physical activity. And part of this is also making sure that you are not around things that you know are going to trigger you. Like you may definitely know that there's going to be triggers just normally in your environment. That's kind of how the world works. That's how our cues work in our habit loop. You're not going to really get away from all of them. But if you know that a certain friend always makes you feel bad, or they make passive aggressive, quote unquote, compliments about what you're wearing, or just comments, and they just don't really make you feel good, like the vibe is off, go find a new friend. There's so many people out in the world, and there are so many groups on like Facebook or on, like meetup type sites. You can find events. Like I know in Denver where I am, there's this website. I'm trying to remember what it's called, but there's a website that has like all these like different really unique events around Denver. So I think if you Google like unique events and put in your city or your town, you should be able to find a website that kind of has some ideas. That's a great way to go meet new people. So if you have friends that's vibe is just off, you don't feel good after you hang out with them, maybe they're always kind of complaining, you feel like they're not really lifting you up, they just don't make you feel good, go find some new friends. Maybe eventually that friendship, as you work on your self-concept and the way that you see yourself and the way that you're seeing the world, it may come back around. But I'm also a firm believer that as you change, you're going to outgrow some friendships. You're going to outgrow some relationships that just aren't serving you. And that's kind of part of the process. And you don't have to be upset with these people. You don't have to like wish a curse on them or anything like that. You can definitely wish the absolute best for them, but naturally grow out of that friendship or that relationship. And sometimes that is the absolute best thing that you can do for yourself, is not hold on to these relationships that don't feel good. The ones that just don't have the vibe that you're really looking for. You don't have similar interests, or even if your interests are different, you don't have somebody who's like supporting you and lifting you up. And instead they make you feel weird or small or belittled. We don't need that in our lives. It's time to move on. And this is also part of the story that you're telling about yourself. This is speaking kindly to yourself and treating yourself well. When you're treating yourself well, you're not going to want to continue to be in relationships that feel that off or that don't fulfill you in the way that you're looking. And that's okay. I know that at least for me, was really difficult at first, and I would feel like really bad and like I was letting people down. But when it comes down to it, I need to take care of myself first. And it was not that I disliked these people or wanted anything bad for them, but we just were not able to jive in the way that I was looking for. And it happened without me realizing it, right? It's not like I consciously woke up one day and said, I'm not going to be friends with this person anymore. That's not what happened. And I'm sure on their side, similar thing happened. You start texting less, you stop making as many plans, or unfortunately, sometimes there is kind of that cutoff point where you get in a disagreement and you just decide, I've had enough. My boundaries are not being respected. I'm not being loved in this relationship in the way that I want to be, whether that's a romantic relationship or a friendship, any kind of relationship. I'm not being respected and loved and treated the way that I deserve to be treated and that I want to be treated. Your needs are valid. And a key to this is remembering that when you're looking at the world, perspective is your reality. So even if that person or someone disagrees with the way that you see it, it doesn't make it less right or real for you. So I hope that makes sense. When you have your perspective, that's reality for you. And think about this for some other people too. If you have a partner or a friend or even a child that is like maybe acting out in a way or got their feelings hurt over something that you just cannot understand, their perspective is not invalid because you don't understand it. So that's where empathy comes in. That's where validating that someone can feel the way that they feel and that you hear them is part of this equation. When you want to have better relationships with any human beings in the world, you need to be open to validating their feelings. That doesn't mean that you agree with them. It doesn't even necessarily mean that you understand them when you're first validating them. But you do understand that they have them. You do respect the fact that they feel that way and have some empathy for whatever they're feeling is their perspective. That's reality for them right now. And if you care about this person, that should matter to you and your perspective should matter to them. I do want to touch on ways to kind of fill your cup. I talk about this a lot here. I hope nobody's getting tired of it quite yet, because I definitely am not. But one of the things that I really promote to naturally increase the gratitude you have in your life is by adding daily joys. So if you've fallen off this practice, today's the day, pick it back up. But daily joys is taking a look at the small and sometimes big things in your day that you really enjoy. It can be like taking a bubble bath, drinking a fresh cup of coffee, going for a walk outside, smelling the flowers, etc., right? It can be the things that you really enjoy. Reading a book, playing pickleball, even cleaning your bathroom. I'm going to get into that here in just a bit, but these are things that you really enjoy and they make you feel good. And they could be things that are from your childhood that maybe you don't do as much anymore. Like I love going swimming. So like going to the pool, jumping in, having this like blast. Swimming is so much fun. It feels amazing. So that's something I like to add for my joys. I also really enjoy going to the park and swinging. Like that's something that I can add to my day. It's very simple and I actually enjoy it. But you're going to write out a list of these joys. And maybe you can even break them up for like a Monday through Friday list and a Saturday and Sunday list. But you're going to break up these joys. You're going to write them out. And then you're going to consciously choose to do them within your day. So you're going to say, today I'm going to add these joys to my day. Now here's part of it too that really helps build your kind of natural feelings of gratitude and joy in your life, and actually will increase the fulfillment that you feel in life in a very natural way. This is not toxic positivity. We're not forcing anything. You are just going to start recognizing how you feel doing those activities. So there has to be something that even you are currently doing now that you enjoy. Like one for me is brushing my teeth. Like it just feels better once your teeth are brushed, especially in the morning. Like it's just refreshing and it feels nice. So I started paying attention to that. And you can say, I'm doing this to add this joy to my day. My mouth feels better. My breath smells better. Overall, I feel better when my teeth are clean. So then you're going to focus on that moment and you're going to actually tell yourself, I am doing this for me. I am doing this and recognizing that this makes me feel better. This makes me feel good. And you can get even deeper by starting to focus on the senses that you're feeling in that moment. So this is helping you learn how to become present in that moment. So you can focus on the sensations that you physically feel while you're doing this activity. This also helps you build that resiliency that we were talking about earlier. So you become more resilient because you have this gratitude. You have things that you are doing for yourself to fill your cup, take care of you, make sure that you are physically and mentally in a better place. And that helps you then when these like issues come up, or when you have a bump in a relationship that frustrates you or makes you feel down, you have something to kind of draw from. I think when, folks talk about filling your cup, the reason is because you're always taking from it, right? Life is kind of taking from your cup. So you want to keep giving to it. And then that way you're never depleted. You always have something to grab. And this should be the priority. I know that can be difficult. I know for me, especially when I first got started and being a mother and someone who felt like they really took on a lot, it was difficult for me to do this because I felt like, well, when am I supposed to have time for that? Guess what? You can make 5 minutes twice a day to do this. You can take the 2 minutes that you're brushing your teeth and add this in. You can do this for your shower, for your bath, drinking your coffee. There is nothing wrong with you taking 1% of your day and working on you becoming better. I believe 1% of your day comes out to less than 15 minutes. I just don't believe that there's not 15 minutes that you can find in your day when it's important to you and it's been prioritized to get this done. You prioritize getting all the stuff done for your family. You prioritize getting all the stuff done for work. You can carve out this time for you. And I don't want that to sound harsh. It's not to make anybody feel bad who has been telling themselves that they don't have enough time, but it's changing that story. It's switching that story from I don't have time to this is the priority. Making sure that I'm taking care of myself is a priority. And the more that I take care of myself, the better I am for everyone else who deals with me on a daily basis or even a monthly basis. You becoming better allows you to give more to others. So if you're struggling with figuring out how to take care of yourself because you don't want to take from others, know that you are also giving them a gift. But more importantly, you're giving it to yourself, which is so important for you to do. There's nothing wrong with taking care of yourself. It's actually a necessity. And I mentioned like cleaning your bathroom. I want to go back to that. There is something to be said about having a space that feels relaxing and clean. So if you are coming home to a very messy and cluttered home, this is something that I would recommend putting focus into tidying up. Even if you're only able to do a section at a time, like make an agreement with yourself that like today you're going to clear off the kitchen counter. You're going to clean the bathroom. You're going to dust a specific room. You're going to clear off one dresser in your bedroom. You're going to put away all of those clean clothes that are piling up. You're going to do some laundry, but start to really focus on making sure that you have a space in your home that feels refreshing. So even start with one room, and I would recommend your bedroom, and get your bedroom to a position that it is clean, that you're making the bed, that you have somewhere to go that feels relaxing and that you can refresh yourself. Another good example is the bathroom, like having an area that you can either take a bath, shower, brush your teeth, do these things that are taking care of you in a clean and orderly space. I grew up a military brat. Our home was always extremely, extremely clean. I do not hold that now. My house definitely looks lived in, but I have tidy spaces. My home is not cluttered, and I have noticed throughout life that when my home is cluttered, my life feels cluttered. And I have times in life where I did have a very cluttered home and my life felt very cluttered as well. So making sure that you have these environments set up. So it's the friend groups that you're around, the things that you're doing, and the cleanliness of your home actually does help you become this kind of person with a new identity who overall feels better about life and the things that they're doing. I do hope that you found benefit in today's episode. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, you can email me at unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendrix.com at any time. I love hearing from everybody. I have also released like a small guide that is kind of step one to creating a life that you love. I will put the link below if you want to download that. Just go to my website. There's a button that you can hit, but I'll put that link below so that you can download it. So I hope that you enjoyed the episode. I hope that you have walked away with some tools that you will use today. And I certainly hope that at the very least, you do one joy for yourself right after listening to this episode. Have a beautiful, beautiful week. Thank you again for joining me today. If you'd like to learn more about all things going on with me, go ahead and visit my website at ceciliahendrix.com.